ask him to speak.
Yes, sir.
I have quite a number of things to say. First of all, this isn't about Mr. Bremer or the quality of his club, or whether it's a good club or a bad club, because there are divided opinions about that, that's for sure. Some people are, even next to me, love his club when I had some issues. So it's not about those things. But it is about process, I think, and how that relates to this application in many ways. First of all, I have some pictures from the net. These are pictures that appeared in GreaterPatchogue.com, and I also think they appeared in Mr. Bremer's own Facebook page. These give you a better idea what the facility currently looks like. I'm sorry I don't have enough for everybody.
Just pass around.
But this will give you an idea of actually what we're talking about today. Now, the drawings in front of you, but that's what's presently there. That structure is described as a restaurant in some literature, and is certainly functioning as a disco at nighttime. So it's a little bit more than just a couple seats with people sitting. He's got an expanded use, and it's impacting on my home in particular. And that's because the music is quite loud, and the bass from that house is extremely powerful. My house gets a vibration from the bass from his music. Now, Mr. Bremer is correct. There's been exceptions for all different kinds of people for these kinds of arrangements. The doubling deck is a very good example. But in that case, what you folks did with the doubling deck was you ordered a sound study so that you could assess the sound coming out of the doubling deck and how it affected the neighborhood. And I think that should be done in this case too. This is a disco and a restaurant during the winter months, which would be 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, according to Mr. Brown. This is this off-season now turning into a full season. I think since you asked the doubling deck to do that, and they did, by the way, they increased their windows to make them soundproof. They put up a sound wall. They made sure to take their sound equipment and make sure the bass would not enter into the ground and disturb the nearby neighbors. They took steps that were recommended by the sound engineer. And I'm hoping that that modified some of the impacts on the nearby community. I would ask you to think about doing the same for this application. Whether you grant them approval to go ahead with it or not, I think this still needs to be done, because there is quite a lot of sound coming out of this restaurant slash disco, whatever you want to call it, Voodoo Lounge. That's one thing. Secondly, I do have to ask, there was a 2008 court decision that set some requirements for Mr. Bremer, and I'm not positive that they've all been met. In the event that they haven't been all met, would you be looking to see that they were all met before you moved ahead with a further application?
I'm unfamiliar with what exactly was done.
Okay.
Well, I remember in 2010, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, while my daughter was undergoing a year of chemotherapy before she passed away, Mr. Bremer coming before us probably 20 times and changing his application numerous times. And I remember thinking, every work session and every meeting that we had, everything changed. So I'm not just so convinced that this is carved in stone the way he says. I remembered wasting quite a bit of time personally here.
Well, bygones are bygones. The bottom line is there was a court decision, and that's what we,
Excuse myself.
when we denied, well, hang on a second.
I'm just going to go for the blessing.
Sure. When we denied the application at that time, the court did make a decision. The court did hand down a series of things that needed to be done. What those are is something that's not something we're going to determine in a hearing.
I just
As to whether
remember.
they've been met, and if they haven't been met, that's up to the enforcement part of the village, not this board.
Okay. All right, so
We
that will
will
be...
take it, a fresh look at what he's presented tonight, and not bring the past in to this application, because that's unfair. If
Okay,
there is an issue with enforcement,
right.
or something that hasn't been done, then that's an issue for someone other than this board.
All right, that's
Because
it.
they're not going to prejudice what's happened there or not happened there to this decision. That would be unfair of us to do.
Okay, well, I'm with that. I'm asking because if that's the case, then I have an avenue to go elsewhere.
Oh, you know
If
that.
not here, then that's.
If
then
there's
that's
something
okay.
that hasn't been done that the court said had to be done, I would suggest that you bring it up with the village board, the village attorney, or whatever other authority can do that. But it's certainly not our position or place to do that. Am I right, counsel?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, carry on.
Oh,
Carry
all
on.
right, well then, the bulk of my reservations would have been geared to that because of those issues. Now, just come back to what my plea, this board then asked. If you go ahead without making a sound study, you're going to let me live with a lot of noise for the rest of my life, for as long as I live in Oxford Street. You've done for the Dublin deck, something for that neighborhood. I ask you to do the same thing for me. That's what I'm asking for. If I wasn't bothered by the vibration and the noise, Mr. Bremer could have his wonderful voodoo lounge and it wouldn't bother me at the very least. But until that's the case, it does.
Thank you, Mr. Bojack. Thanks for coming down tonight. Anyone else wish to speak? Anyone else wish to speak before the board tonight? Good evening, sir. State your name and address for the record. Tell us what's on your mind.
John Cucci, 183 River Avenue, which butts up to Knoxon, if you know the area.
Yes, sir.
And I think him saying that he has his house vibrating is very disingenuous, because I spend a lot of time out there, and he doesn't. He has his air conditioner on all summer, and I know he personally doesn't like Mike, and I think his motives are wrong coming before you on what he just said, because I have to walk all the way over there, especially in the winter, to hear anything. And at 10, whether it's 9:58 or 10:58, whatever the limit is, that's when Mike shuts it down. Now, granted, I know years ago Mike had some issues, maybe a little cavalier, maybe a little too much noise, but ever since things have changed and the parking lot changed, and I think you guys all went to court, there's a noticeable difference. And I really think this is a personal thing between John Bojack and Mike Bremer.
Where do you live, Mr. Cucci?
183 River Avenue.
And where exactly is that in relation to the Tiki Bar?
I would say it's about 180 feet away,
180 feet away.
and I would say Mr. Bojack is about 140 feet away.
North side.
Yeah.
That's their house there.
Right.
That's that. This is Knox. There's Baker
Baker's
Place.
Place,
Go
right.
through there.
And then 183 is where? The house right on the...
That's this house.
Oh,
here.
no, your house. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much right there.
All right.
So let me
I'm
tell you-
sorry, I didn't realize you were attached to her.
I'm kind of new.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand exactly where you are now.
So, I spend a lot of time outdoors, whether it's with the kids or working on my car or all kinds of things. And daytime, I can hear, it's funny, it's like having a radio station. I can tune this way and I hear the Blue Point Brewery, their music. I can go this way and hear Mike or Dublin Deck, and I don't know the name of the place across the river, I think it's the Orr House. And you hear them in the summer. But when the time comes to shut it down, it's shut down by everybody. I hear everybody complying. And even when it is going on, you hear it, but there's no thud, there's no thumping. I even went this summer because Mr. Bojack threatened me that if I keep playing my guitar in the backyard, he's going to start calling code enforcement. So I went out and bought a decibel meter. All right? And I've had that thing out. And it's never gone over 40 with any of the noise in the summer. So nobody's breaking any codes, and I'm going to move on. The other thing is I've been in this structure, and it was kind of funny because I stumbled upon it. I go to Mike's place, I'd say in the summer maybe once a week, maybe twice, and in the winter maybe once a month. And there was a cold night, and I went over there, I don't know what month it was, maybe the end of September, and I saw these kind of windows, I'm calling them storm doors for lack of a better word. And I thought it was a great idea because one reason we used to not want to go there to patronize Mike in the winter was because it was so cold. And let me tell you, when it is, even when he has a lot of people there in the winter, maybe there's 25, 30 people, it's never more than that. And it's not the party environment in the winter so much as it is in the summer. So there's definitely this little dichotomy that when it gets winter, it's kind of a more mellow environment. Thank you for hearing me, I really appreciate it. And I just hope this meets any safety requirements. I'm sure that's an issue, and I'm sure Mike will handle it.
It may or may not be an issue.
Well,
The
right.
point is, this board is not in a position to make that decision.
Yeah, and I gotta say this, I feel like, it seems like it's like when you're at grandma's house and the door pops off, I feel like, it's kind of safe because these are just little, openings that are closed and you can go like this and they're gone. So I would imagine safety won't be an issue, but we'll leave that to somebody else. Thanks so much for listening to me, I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak for or against the application?